Okay, so we gotta talk about the spear. If you haven't heard the word about the spear, it's a new weapon coming to Minecraft in the upcoming Mounts of Mayhem update. And the community is angry again. Oh no, they add stick with pointy end to it? Now my life is over. I don't think the anger and outrage is as bad as when they added the copper armor and tools, probably due to the fact that along with the spear, we get this cute little guy. It's called the Nautilus, although that has its own separate player outrage. But today we have to talk about the spear, because it is literally better than the sword in almost every way. I'm not joking, the spear has dethroned the sword.
What about axes? They're actually much better than a sword, and players have been losing them for so long. Plus, in PvP situations, they could disable the shield and you could use them.
Yeah, no, we'll get to that later. But first, maybe you guys aren't aware of what the spear's main features are. And of course, before I continue, I expect that once Mojang sees this video, or maybe they're already in the process of doing it now, that the spear will be nerfed or changed. So if you're watching this video and it's the future, the spear might not operate the same as it did before it was fully released. So I better not see any comments saying, actually, the spear doesn't work like that. Okay? Promise me. Promise me. Speaking of promises, would you promise to subscribe to my channel if I showed you this dire graph that I just found? According to it, only 2.5% of the people who watch my vids are also subscribed to my channel, so make sure to hit that like button. Together, we can educate the algorithm about the spear. But what do you think about it? Do you think that the spear is just some gimmicky item that will fall out of popularity like all the other previous weapons? Or is this new feature actually here to stay? So, the spear's got two attacks. We got the and the Okay, I don't know what I'm saying. Basically, we got the little stab and the big stab, or the running stab. I don't really know what to call it. Oh, okay, on the wiki, the small one is called the jab attack, and the running one is called a charge attack. Oh, the sounds. Oh, they're so nice. They really make me love using this. Similar to how the trident has a regular melee attack when you left click, and a ranged attack when you hold right click and release, the spear's jab attack is what happens when you left click. It's got a little bit of a cooldown too, otherwise rapid fire would be pretty crazy. But the interesting thing is it kind of also hits mobs that are very close to the mob that you just hit, kind of like it's piercing through. Although it's a little questionable if what I'm doing is piercing through, because really it just kind of looks like there was like a small area of effect. Also, I really hope they keep this, but I love that you don't really even have to line up the jab attack with the hitbox of the mob, so you can actually be quite inaccurate with your jabs and it'll still get a hit. It would definitely help when having to deal with mobs that are a lot smaller, like silverfish or endermites, baby zombies, vexes, and those annoying bats. Plus, it might make it a bit easier to hit larger mobs that just have annoyingly shaped hitboxes like cave spiders or phantoms. Also, for some reason, there's this bug that people have found out that allows you to hit a mob through a block. Not 2 blocks, but if there's like a 1 block wall between you and the mob, you can actually hit it. This will probably be patched out at some point, but if it doesn't, then this might be the new way we fight creepers. But I have to say, hands down, what makes this weapon the Dethroner 5000 is dat reach. Sure, yes, these things don't do as much damage as the other weapon counterparts, but I'd take reach over damage any day of the week. Sure, the wooden spear and the golden spear is basically like having a stick with a punching fist on the end of it, because both of those spears do the same damage as punching, but the stone and copper one do 2 damage points or a full heart. And you know I gotta represent when it comes to copper, because copper stuff has completely dethroned iron stuff. If you don't believe me, watch my previous videos on that. I'll educate you real fast. Think about how often Minecraft players die to creeper explosions, or get mobbed by so many zombies, or just a combination of things. At the time, before the spear, the best option was to defeat them as fast as possible, or just do a lot of damage, because that would get rid of the threat. But now that we have the spear, which does less damage, we're actually quite safe when fighting dangerous mobs, mainly because we can keep them back a lot more. Not to mention a game-breaking way to use the charge attack, which I will show you later. But yeah, keeping them far back will also allow you to maybe back up and then do a charge attack on them if you want. So let's more properly explain what the charge attack of the spear really is all about. To activate the charge attack, you just hold down right click and then you run into things. It won't really work if you're going any slower than sprinting, and also if you activate the charge attack when too close, it also won't land. You can't activate the spear forever. At some point your hand apparently gets tired and slowly starts to have trouble steadying the spear. This time can vary with which material you've made the spear with. The stronger the material, the heavier it gets. And once you get too tired, the spear then points back up, causing you to have to reactivate it if you want to do damage. In the first stage, not only does it do damage, but a little bit of knockback, and if the mob or player is riding on a mount, it will forcefully knock them off. In the second tired state, it's just damage and knockback, and in the third one, it's just damage. The charge attack when doing it on foot is kind of broken, but also it's really tough to pull off. See, the thing about hitting a mob and doing damage with the charge attack is you have to have some speed on ya. If all you're doing is walking up, you'll never put one dent into them. But if you start sprinting, you can ram the spear into a mob. It's not really the greatest amount of damage, but wait, there's more. Where the dash attack really shines is riding on a horse. Now, the annoying part of that is if you get a slow horse, it might not be as effective, but finding a decently fast horse is really not that hard. I wish there was a vanilla way for you to like check the stats of a horse when you tame it, but there's always mods. I like to use Tweakaroo. There's an option in there to show horse stats. But once you get a decent horse, the spear becomes an insane weapon of destruction. As long as you're pressing forward on a horse, the damage always counts. If you kind of go forward at an angle and then swoop back and come in at the opposite angle, you can actually get a lot of continuous hits really quickly. In fact, so quickly that you can hit the mob during its invincibility frames. For anyone who doesn't know what that is, when a mob is red after being attacked, it can't take damage anymore. Of course, that only lasts for a second, so you kind of have to slow down your attack just enough so that every time you make a sweep, you're dealing damage to it. If you're on an average horse, a gold or wooden spear can defeat most overworld mobs in 4 hits, but if you have a stone or copper one, it's 3. Sadly, iron doesn't bring it to 2 hits. You can only reach that with like a netherite one, but that's only on an average horse. Obviously, most people aren't just going to find a max level horse in the wild, which is a speed of 14.23, but most of the time, you could pretty easily find horses ranging from 10, 11, or 12 speed, which is much better than the average horse speed at 9.71, which the wiki here does have like a little calculator to calculate the damage of what spear you're using and at what speed you're going at, but to be honest, I'm not going to be going through all of that. You guys can go visit the website and try it out yourself, mainly because I've discovered this way of attacking to the point to where I don't really care if it was 10 hits. I just have so much fun doing this. The only annoying part is, of course, that the charge attack is not infinite. At some point, the spear becomes too heavy and your character automatically pulls it back up. So you then have to kind of back up and re-engage the charge attack. But besides that, this can do some crazy amounts of damage. Also, I don't remember which video talked about this. I'll put it up if I can find it, but a lot of people are just calling the spear the horizontal mace, but the spear can also do vertical damage. I just don't think it does as much damage as the mace does, but that's probably because the mace calculates the damage based on how many blocks you've fallen, while the spear calculates based off of your relative speed. So you'd probably have to go super high just to do an insane amount of damage with the spear. But the cool thing is you don't have to click the target when you get to it. You just gotta hold down right click and it'll automatically do the damage. In fact, pairing the spear with wind charges actually might be a much better tactic than using the mace. Sure, it won't do that much damage, but it'll do more damage than you using the charge attack when you're just sprinting. Also, new way to get lots of fish. Just use the Nautilus and ram into them with the spear. I don't know why you need a lot of fish, but maybe you got a craving. And if so, this is definitely the way to go. So satisfying, just riding this thing and massacring a bunch of fish as you go along. Wait, I'm a fish. Just kidding, guys. Forget I said this. We don't need to go down into the oceans and just start skewering fish willy-nilly. Let's go back to the land, okay? Yeah, let's just forget about that. But of course, this wouldn't be a Hydronova video without looking at this outrageous way that the community reacts to a new update. Just look at this specimen, who I had a lovely little chat with literally after Mojang announced the Mounts of Mayhem after Minecraft Live. I'm sure this guy is just the exception, of course, because judging by his insults alone, it looks like he needs to go out and touch grass for like a week. Bro literally thinks that there's nothing to explore underwater. Like, I think he missed 1.13. It's literally called Update Aquatic. At least he does call the spear interesting, but then he follows that up by saying it's nothing actually good. I mean, that's my fault for going on Twitter, I guess. Yeesh. Then there's this guy who calls the mace and the spear too niche. I'm not really sure that's a reason why people don't have the mace in their inventory is because it's too niche. It's just a very rare item. But calling the spear niche? Really? First, people were complaining that the elytra ruined other travel methods, and now that they added the spear to make having a horse much better because now you can defend yourself a lot better on it, they don't want it or think it's not worth it? A spear in any game would be great. I think the reach alone is going to be the reason why it replaces the sword for most players. It's also half the cost of the resources, so it's cheaper to make. You might as well say the sword is niche. It'll probably be relegated to mob grinders, enders, and anything that requires sweeping edge to be useful. Oh, and then they go on to say how is it anything other than a gimmick, and that it might be fun to pull out occasionally, but most mobs in Minecraft are easily handled with a sword and a bow. Like, what? A spear will be much easier to handle mobs than a sword. Like, maybe if the spear only stabbed and hit one mob at a time, you might have a point. I don't think anybody would use the spear if the jab attack didn't have some sort of piercing area of effect, but the spear kicks the sword's butt. Obviously the bow is better, but for that you need string to craft it, and you need arrows. Unless you got infinity, arrows will run out at some point, and with the spear, you can just keep stabbing away. Here's a similar comment telling me the same thing, just use a sword. The spear isn't even as fast as the sword, so why bother? Because of the reach? A very obvious thing that I don't understand why people aren't seeing: when you have a monster that blows up when it gets too close to you, and a monster that walks up to you and damages you by touching you, the spear is perfect for keeping the creeper away so it doesn't explode, and keeping a small horde of zombies at bay. The lower tier spears aren't that much slower than a sword. The diamond and the netherite spears are probably a lot slower, but they make up for that in damage. Plus, there's also enchants to boost their damage, like smite, sharpness, fire aspect, and bane of arthropods, and there might be new enchantments added to the spear in the near future to account for that slowness. Who knows? And then here we go. This guy says that the sword is already replaced by the axe because the axe does more damage. Also, he for some reason hates the sweeping part of the sword swipe because he always manages to hit villagers, his pets, and fellow players. I can't think of a time in my single player world where I'm just surrounded by thousands of villagers and my pets are invisible, or I haven't brought any healing items for them. Like, what? I can agree that it can be annoying sometimes accidentally doing that, but the speed and the fast cooldown is something that most players can get behind. It's a lot easier to use. Plus, it can have enchantments like fire aspect or looting, which are way more important for doing damage in different ways or just getting more items, while the axe cannot have those enchantments on it. But also the thing about the axe is, yeah, it might do a lot of damage, but its weapon cooldown is quite slow. Sure, I like to at least use a wooden axe in the beginning of my playthroughs to get some meat from animals like cows, sheep, pigs. It just takes 2 critical hits to kill them, but if I were to use the axe fighting mobs or other players, it would be really annoying because I would miss a lot and have to wait for that super long axe cooldown. So maybe this guy is getting confused with how some players will use the axe either in PvP situations or speedrunning situations, but the vast majority of players are not throwing their swords away for axes anytime soon. Editor Nova here. I've got some of my own personal thoughts about the spear after playing with it in an actual survivor world, which is the main footage you're seeing in the background. The spear, when using it just by yourself, has its pros and cons. Aside from what I assume are just glitches from snapshot 25W41A, with projectiles rapidly hitting me, the spear is really bad against skeletons, and since you can't use it with a shield, if a skeleton shows up, you might want to switch to like an axe and a shield or a sword and a shield. But for other mobs that don't have infinite ranged weapons, they are actually really good. You can just keep stabbing and the mobs will never get to you. Yeah, it'll take a bit of a time to beat them, but you won't get hurt in the process, unless they're attacking you from both sides, or there is a skeleton in the mix. Also, why can't you place torches from the offhand while holding the spear? It's the same thing with the shield. It's like when you want to place the torch, since it's right click, it'll activate the spear charge attack or pull the shield up. As someone who likes to hold the torch in the offhand because I use dynamic lighting, that annoyed me so much. Sadly, due to how this footage ends, I didn't get to find a horse in that survival world, but from the previous footage of me using the spears on a horse, that in all aspects defeats the sword. And yes, I tested it in the newest snapshot that came out this week, 25W42A. They haven't changed or fixed that feature yet, but I'm sure we will see the spear change over the course of the Mounts of Mayhem snapshots. So maybe some stuff will get changed and it will be more or less viable when that happens. We'll just have to wait and see. At the end of the day, these are all just my opinions, so if you don't like what I have to say, well, then you can always go leave a comment down below. I'd really be interested in reading it. I'm not sure if I'll be making a video on the Nautilus. It seems pretty basic. It's basically just an underwater ghast, but also a pretty valuable transport. Boats are great, but I can't see all the way down deep in the ocean on a boat. If I'm using a Nautilus, not only can I see, but I can easily explore any caves or structures that I find. No doors needed. But with all that being said, this is the end of the video. If you like what you watch, click that like button, and if you want to see more, definitely subscribe. See you guys in the next video.